Hi everyone, sorry, I'm just still setting up. I just got back to my desk. Just give me 2 seconds. Okay. Okay. Make sure you guys can see. Do you guys have the screen up on your side? I'm so sleepy today. Okay, let me make sure you guys are seeing that. Okay. Let me go back here. Go. Still have to give me a second here. I literally just got back to my desk, so. Oh, that's okay. Thanks for letting me know. Yeah, it's because I just mostly want to make sure that I'm not missing anything here. Sorry guys, I wanted to buy some dailies too. I just didn't want to miss an entry. And it was moving kind of fast, so I want to make sure I get in on that. Day's been super busy. Okay. This is, remember how I said if they can clear by 3 or just after 3? There were some odds just after 3 o'clock, and mostly if they broke 64.04. Do you guys see what they did here at 3? Look at where they stalled. Right at that 04 spot. Pretty big area here, guys, for ES. This was the range reduction they gave this afternoon. It was about 27 or so points. So they definitely had some odds of pushing this to that 40, 41 earlier. Remember how we had some channel odds? So I just want to show you guys that. So they definitely had some odds of getting it to these ranges earlier this afternoon had they pushed the zone in time, but they didn't. They stalled. The idea here is that they pushed. This is why I wanted to do some SPY and SPX for same day, because I knew that we'd get some very aggressive price action here in this range. I don't know if you guys just bought some, but I picked up the 639s and I did some SPX in my account. I just figured that they could give us a nice end of day move, especially if they clear the 64.10 12 wall and that 14, and they did do it in a single stick. Okay, so I just wanted to clear up the chart a little bit. That was the overall reduction that we had. These were my weekly low targets. I don't really have too much time to recap right now since market's moving a bit, but I initially wanted to see if they'd hold around that 6.8, 6.9, this range in here. I think it was closer to like that 6.975. This was the initial weekly range target. And then we had some odds of going back to the 6.2, 6.3, which has been a very big spot for us in the past anyway. They ended up stalling the top of the zone. Overnight, I had mentioned that they could take this back to 64.10, 64.08, which they did, especially if they don't clear that 64.38, which they stalled. I don't know if you guys saw that. That was the 3.8 stall right here, like right when the session started. They ended up closing at 64.33, 64.35. You can't think too long, otherwise you'll miss the trade. So this morning we were able to catch the short, which was nice because they had opened, but obviously in the zone. So that implied that is because they went back and tested 64.08, 64.10 overnight, it was pretty obvious that we would fill our weekly targets. What were our weekly targets from the report? And we had this down, and I even talked about this yesterday before I ended the stream, that if we get a reversal today, they could easily take this back to those 60s. Okay, you guys see this? This was the reversal down. 8879 had some odds of holding, but closer to like 6.7, and that makes a little bit more sense based on where they opened today, because this was relative to the stall. So I still think that clearing this 08 spot is huge. Let me just recap this here real quick. So highs from here, this was still a 68-point hold. That's 34.34. Check. I'm doing this as quick as possible because we don't really have too much time. Okay, so from highs to lows, we hit 68-point ratio. I would have obviously preferred to have held off the opening range. So they opened this morning at 6428, I believe. So they still held a 66-point ratio here, which was good. Do you see that? Check. This is off today's open. So those were all really good structural holds. Off the actual close from yesterday, which was 6435, this is where there was a lot of risk. Do you see this? So from the actual session range opening, this is where risk came in. That's why I really preferred that they had held. Otherwise, they could have pushed this down 88 points. And that could have put us at risk of going back to the channel, which we're trying to obviously avoid. Off of the 3-3 open today, you can kind of see how these could have taken us back to the channel. This was a 70-point hold, which, again, it's still that risk, but what do you guys remember from yesterday's session? Let's see who's smart enough to remember this. What was something that stood out from yesterday's session? Let's see who remembers this. What's something that stood out from yesterday's session? And we said that there is a chance that they could do this. Let's see. What stood out from yesterday's session? You guys remember? Remember, we also said we can go all the way back and then still retrace. So what stood out from yesterday's session? What stood out from yesterday's session? You guys don't remember? Okay. I'm not telling you. It's your fault if you don't remember. Do you guys not remember the 3-point offset from yesterday? Okay, so they could easily do the same sort of thing today. So breach 68 points by 3 points. Do you get it? This is the same idea here. So even though they did take it a little bit above that 34-34 ratio, we've had that buffer that we can work with, correct? Why was this allowed on the downside? Don't get this wrong. Why was this allowed on the downside today? Based off what? What were the big overheads that we wanted to try breaking yesterday and pinning there, but we just couldn't? They ended up stalling closer to 3.4, 3.5, 3.6. What was the big spot? And why were we even able to sustain on the downside here? Based on what? So they breached below by 3 points beneath the 68-point range. But what else did they do overnight? What did they do overnight that allowed for this? Especially based on where they closed and where they opened. So they closed at 3.5. What did they do overnight? Can you guys not hear me? Or are you guys just avoiding answering questions? You guys are the ones that are at a loss if you don't try to answer questions, because I understand what's happening. You're the one that would be at a loss if you don't understand what's going on. Not me. Why would this potentially be okay? Okay, we're gonna move forward then if you guys don't want to answer. I'm not gonna stay stuck on certain things for a long time if you guys refuse to participate. That's on you. The answer's right in front of you. Did we not want to hit 64.38 yesterday? 64. Do you guys not remember the conditions? 64.39. Hello. Okay, they did trigger that overnight. That little 3-point buffer off our closing point of 3.5 allowed us that 3-point breach. Okay? Did we not have the 3-point breaches yesterday? You guys forget so easily. Do you not remember this? The 3 points yesterday beneath 2.2. Hello to 19. The decrease at 3.5 versus 3.8. If they offset range on both sides, they can still breach below and it's fine. But that also implies what? If they can breach below and it's fine, that means that they could do what? So if they could take this below 68 points, what else could they do? What could they do on the inverse? If they're allowed to take this below, what could they do on the inverse? They could take it above, okay? Which means they could do what? What does that mean that they could do? Okay, so then that means that they can break the 3 points above 3.8, which could get us the ranges that we actually need. correct? So ideal areas off these closing points would have been to hold closer to like 6-7. Off of 3-8, it would have been maybe more ideal to hold closer to like 6-9. 70 off of today's highs in real time. We still had some range here, so that was good. They held. So if they're holding real-time range, okay, real-time open, they held real-time opening range by 65 points. They held real-time highs by 68 points. What does that imply? White is the real-time range, okay? What does that imply? Yeah, they have a chance of actually getting over 3839, 44.1, whatever the ranges were that we talked about yesterday. And hence this aggressive price action here. There's a bit of a bull flag here on some of these smaller time frames too. Does that make sense? So off the actual real-time ranges, maybe they do the inverse. 71.5 could get us back to here. Okay. Do you see what I mean? Off this range here. Do you see that? Like if 6-7 was the more ideal area to hold than 6-9. Do you see what I'm saying? Do you guys understand the concept or no? You have to understand this concept. It's quite important that you understand it. And the reason why they could give that odd is because they did trigger 3-8 last night. You have to trigger that upside first to help you protect the downside. Does that make sense? Doing this helps you come back and retrace this. So although holding 6-9, 6-6 would have been a little bit more ideal, okay, especially off these high ranges here. I'll just recap it one more time. Do you see what I mean? And off of 3-5. Okay. So 6-8, 6-9, so on and so forth. Overall range, I believe, is up to 7 points, 6.5 points. And that makes sense because they've been ranging that. If you take this 7 points above overnight or real-time open, guess what? That takes you back to 3-8. Isn't that cool? Isn't that insane? So the exact range of 7 points above, so that's the range differential here between what we ideally wanted to hold. Do you see this? Versus what they actually held. This range right here, it's 7 points. Okay. If you compare that to where they stalled, the real-time high or your real-time open, that takes you back to 3-8. Off of real-time open, that takes you back to 3-5. Do you think that's a coincidence that they aligned it like that to be at your close? Your low is linked to your close. Your open is linked to your highs. Your highs is linked to your lows. Okay, it's all correlated. So those are the metrics that we can work with. And of course, if they end up breaking us up, that's where we could see 6442. That's where we could see 6445. Do you see it? Those would be max ranges if they can expand and push this. What did I say earlier this afternoon? I did have a meeting with my accountant today, so I had to go, but I said if they can get this